Welcome to NTD News Today. Here are today's top stories. President Trump welcomes Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to the White House. What they have to say about Trump's peace plan for Gaza. Police identify the suspect in a church shooting in Michigan that left at least 4 people dead. This just a day after another shooting in North Carolina where an attacker killed 3 people and injured 5 others. The Utah man accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk returns to court today, where a judge is expected to finalize the appointment of his defense attorney. Movies made outside the U.S. will be facing a stiff new tariff. We have the details of Trump's latest move to protect domestic business. With a looming government shutdown around the corner potentially, a White House meeting is set to hash out disagreements. Democrats doubling down on their demands, Republicans insisting their plan is nonpartisan.
This is NTD News Today, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Today is Monday, September 29th. I'm Stephanie Cox. Authorities are working to determine why an ex-Marine drove his pickup truck into a Michigan church during a Sunday service. The suspect opened fire and set the building ablaze, killing at least 4 people before he died in a shootout with police. Police have identified the suspect as 40-year-old Thomas Jacob Sanford. The White House says the suspect was a former Marine veteran who served in Iraq. Investigators believe the gunman deliberately set the blaze using gasoline. In a social media post, President Trump wrote, "Pray for the victims and their families. This epidemic of violence in our country must end immediately." Here's a recap of what happened over the weekend.
They were shielding the children who were also present within the church, moving them to safety.
As horror and chaos erupted around them, worshipers at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc, Michigan, dove into action to protect each other.
Hundreds of people just practicing their faith, just extreme courage, brave, and that's the type of community that we are.
Shortly after 10 a.m. Sunday, a gunman rammed his pickup truck into the front of the church, set it on fire, then shot at congregants before dying in a shootout with police. One witness described the deadly scene and the aftermath as filled with confusion and disbelief.
I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't know if we were going to have to get down because we couldn't see anybody to worship my Savior Jesus Christ, and I didn't expect this to happen, of course, and I've lost friends in there.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
And some of my little primary children that I teach on Sundays.
The building has been declared a total loss from the blaze, and investigators are combing through the rubble, looking for victims who could have been trapped in the fire. As those efforts continue, the FBI has taken over the investigation.
I can confirm at this time that the FBI is now leading the investigation and is investigating this as an act of targeted violence.
The White House is closely monitoring the deadly shooting in Michigan. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said on Fox News this morning that she spoke to FBI Director Kash Patel.
Based on my conversations with the FBI director, all they know right now is this was an individual who hated people of the Mormon faith. And they are trying to understand more about this, how premeditated it was, how much planning went into it, whether he left a note. All of those questions have yet to be answered, but certainly will be answered by the FBI.
Leavitt said the FBI director told her that the suspect is a Marine Corps veteran and served in Iraq. He's a member of the local Michigan community and his family is cooperating with the FBI. She said the agency is executing search warrants at the residences of the suspect and trying to get to the bottom of why he committed such an atrocity. The press secretary noted that the Trump administration is committed to fully investigating, prosecuting, and preventing such crimes. On the topic of the Israel-Hamas war, Leavitt said a deal is very close.
The president has been working tirelessly on this effort to bring this war in Gaza and to bring this conflict in the Middle East to an end. He wants to see all of the hostages released. And Ambassador Witkoff, Special Envoy Witkoff, sent a very detailed 21-point plan to both sides, and the president expects both sides to agree.
Leavitt said President Trump would discuss the 21-point peace plan with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House later today. Trump will also speak to leaders in Qatar who have served as intermediaries with the Hamas terror group. She noted the White House had direct and indirect conversations with Hamas as well. The press secretary noted that to reach a good deal, both sides may have to give up a little bit, but Trump has said the conflict must end. Tyler Robinson, the suspect in the Charlie Kirk assassination, appears at a preliminary court hearing. He faces 7 counts, including aggravated murder. Utah prosecutors are seeking the death penalty. Let's tune in.
And be efficient in that process. The other item I had, Your Honor, I saw that over the weekend, there was a protection order, pretrial and trial publicity order entered by Your Honor. And I just was seeking some clarification on page 2, at the end of the first paragraph. It reads, "To that end, lawyers participating in the investigation or litigation of this case shall inform all witnesses, investigators, consultants, staff members, or other members of the prosecution or defense teams that the prohibitions contained in this order." The state, we're seeking some clarification with respect to the phrase "all witnesses," Your Honor. There are a number of witnesses that have yet to be identified that will likely be used in the state's case. This occurred in front of 2,000 to 3,000 students at Utah Valley University. So we're in the process of identifying those witnesses. And so those individuals are presently unknown right now. So we're looking for a little clarification from the court. And I suppose we're not going to make any arguments today, but there may be some follow-up pleadings that we may need to file.
Thank you. Ms. Nestor, did you want to be heard about that issue?
No, Your Honor, we would defer to whatever the court wants to advise them on that matter. I think it's fairly obvious that we don't know who all the witnesses are in this case yet. I think it's just important that if anyone is identified, that they have information about this order. So I think other than that, we wouldn't weigh in on any other matter.
Thank you. Well, thank you for that question. That's an important one. The court will rule that as the witnesses become known to each side, that information is conveyed to abide by this order. Obviously, there are potentially many witnesses, and so it's not the expectation that you would be able to do that up front. But as they become known, I would ask that you would inform them of this. Anything else, counsel?
Nothing from the state, nothing else, Judge.
Thank you. Ms. Nestor.
Thank you, Your Honor. We recognize that we are here today for a waiver hearing. It is not our intent to waive a preliminary hearing in this matter. We are going to be seeking that one be set. However, based largely on what the state just referred to as far as the voluminous nature of the discovery materials, we do think it would be prudent to simply reset for another conference, another waiver hearing, a little bit down the road, where we have a better idea once we start seeing the discovery as it rolls in. I do recognize we're going to be getting that first batch in 5 days, but it's my understanding from our meeting today that there is massive amounts of digital that is going to be coming, and until we can kind of get our heads around exactly what we're dealing with and how much we need to process, it's going to be difficult for us to give you a reasonable expectation of when we will be ready to do the prelims. So we're asking today that we put that decision off, and maybe we could check in 30 to 60 days and just kind of let the court know where we're at and how much we're looking at and how much time we may need to set a preliminary hearing. Also, as far as a detention hearing, we are not asking the court to address that issue at this time. Under the statute, the issue is going to come down to the question of whether there's substantial evidence, which right now we're just not in a position at all to be able to even argue to the court. So we are probably going to ask that the court delay that decision possibly until the time of the prelim. But if it's sooner, we will ask the court for a hearing. But at this time, we are not asking the court to make any decisions on that matter.
Thank you, counsel. In regards to the next hearing date, how about October 30th at 10 a.m.?
That works for the state, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right.
That's fine for the defense, Your Honor.
All right. Now, as we're at the beginning, anything further from counsel from either side?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
As we are at the beginning of this case, it is my intent to only speak when I'm needed or it is necessary. But today I do wish to provide guidance and expectations that you can have for this court and wish to enter an order as well. As this case moves forward, Mr. Robinson's constitutional rights will be protected at every stage. He sits before this court presumed innocent, and that presumption remains unless and until each element of every offense charged against him is proved beyond a reasonable doubt. At the same time, and as applicable, victims are entitled under our Constitution to be treated with fairness, respect, and dignity, free from harassment or abuse. Justice demands that both of these principles, the rights of the accused and the rights of victims, be honored without compromise. I remain steadfast in my oath that I made 56 days ago to support and defend the constitutions of the United States and of Utah. I will carry out my duties with fidelity, transparency, and impartiality, treating every person who appears before me with the dignity and respect they are inherently due because they are human beings. Let me be clear. I will not put my finger on the scale of justice. These proceedings will be open to the public, conducted in accordance with the law, and handled with diligence and competence to ensure that justice is never compromised. It is the standing order of this court that Mr. Robinson shall be allowed to appear in person so he can fully engage with his attorneys and participate in these legal proceedings. Counsel, regardless of who is watching, whether it is the nation or a single individual, we must fulfill our roles with integrity, civility, and diligence. I encourage each of you to give your very best to this case. Neither Mr. Robinson nor the people of Utah deserve anything less than the fair and impartial administration of justice. In regards to the next hearing, counsel, on that October 30th date at 10 a.m., it's the court's intent that be in person if it be the wish of counsel for the defense for Mr. Robinson to be present.
It is, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Counsel, anything else that we can address today?
Your Honor, we appreciate the court's comments with respect to Your Honor's role in this case. In like matter, we commit to approach this case with integrity, with professionalism and civility. We are truth seekers. We will aggressively pursue the truth in this case. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, counsel, unless there's anything else, thank you for being here. This court is in recess.
Stand by that. Okay.
And you've been watching a court hearing for the suspect in the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and we just heard the judge there, Tony Graff, vowing to be impartial in his work. Next, National Guard troops have been ordered to Portland, Oregon, following increased tensions outside Michigan facilities. What you need to know. Plus, the Trump administration seeks to reverse the decline of the use of coal plants. How this can help push back against the Chinese Communist Party. That and more coming up. Welcome back. We're turning now to the latest federal deployment from the Trump administration. Federalized National Guard troops have been ordered to Portland, Oregon, following escalating tensions outside federal immigration facilities. Here are the details.
Secretary of War Pete Hegseth on Sunday federalized 200 Oregon National Guard troops and ordered them to Portland. President Trump says the troops will protect immigration facilities and respond to threats from Antifa, a group Trump designated as a terrorist organization last week. The deployment drew praise from some local residents who spoke to the Post Millennial.
We've been asking for help for months, and we're finally going to get it.
Federal authorities have also spoken out after recent attacks on ICE facilities, including a shooting last week.
This horrendous attack must serve as a wake-up call to the far-left media pundits and politicians demonizing our ICE law enforcement. Comparing ICE officers day in and day out to the Nazi Gestapo, the secret police, and the slave patrols has real-life consequences.
Oregon and Portland officials have filed a lawsuit challenging the federal government's authority. They argue there is no invasion, rebellion, or other danger that would justify deploying the National Guard. State leaders say the deployment could inflame tensions rather than maintain public safety. According to data from the Major Cities Chiefs Association, crime in Portland has dropped significantly this year. The planned deployment comes amid an increase of federal law enforcement in other U.S. cities, including Chicago, where federal agents patrolled downtown streets over the weekend. Violent clashes at a federal ICE facility in Broadview, Illinois have also heightened tensions. Authorities say they arrested 11 individuals over the weekend and investigated what appeared to be an explosive device near the site.
Joining us now to discuss the 200 federalized National Guard troops ordered to Portland, Oregon is fellow in law and policy at the Center for Immigration Studies, Andrew Arthur. Good to have you with us today, Andrew. In light of Oregon and the city of Portland suing over the deployment, is it legal for the president to federalize the National Guard if it has to do with defending ICE personnel and federal property?
It does, Stephanie, and there are actually two different laws that are at issue here. One is the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878, which is a law that was passed as part of a compromise to ensure the election of President Rutherford B. Hayes in the face of some fraud allegations. And basically what it did was it got Union troops out of the South, basically ended Reconstruction in the South following the Civil War. The other is the Enforcement Act of 1871, also known as the Ku Klux Klan Act, which allows for federal troops to be used in support of federal government activities. In that particular one, it was for, again, to ensure voting rights for free blacks in the South. So, there are arguments to be made on both sides, but there have been protests going on at this particular ICE facility ever since early June. And in fact, a riot was declared there by the local police on June the 14th. So I think some of the locals are getting tired of the protests that are going on, some of which have turned quite violent. And ICE is plainly tired of its officers being targeted. And so I think that's what's going on here.
And how could the Trump administration's action here impact local immigration enforcement? Could it lead to a more efficient process?
It could lead to a more efficient process, but it's critical to note the fact, Stephanie, that those troops aren't going to be used to go out and arrest anybody or detain anybody or even process anybody. They're simply going to be there to protect the federal facility, sort of a show of force to dissuade the more radical of protesters not to interfere with ICE's actions, to clear the roadways and things like that so that the officers can get out and do their jobs.
Would the National Guard have any impact on the city's sanctuary city rules?
They would not in this situation. Washington, D.C., where the president does have a lot of sway as the federal district, is different. Portland, Oregon is a city and a state in the United States. Governor Tina Kotek there doesn't necessarily agree with immigration enforcement, neither does the mayor of Portland. And they're not going to back off of their sanctuary policies. If anything, they're probably going to double down on them. I can't imagine that there's a whole lot more they could do. But, this is one of those things where, when we've seen attacks in Prairie Land, Texas, in Dallas, Texas, when we've seen 1,000% increase in attacks on ICE officers, this is a way for the Trump administration to, put its foot down and say they're not going to stand for this anymore. Everybody needs to be safe. This is a legitimate federal responsibility.
As you know, Trump has also deployed the National Guard in California previously. A federal judge ruled that illegal, saying it violated the Posse Comitatus Act that you referenced earlier. So Trump has filed an appeal for that particular ruling, but how might that, if at all, affect the Oregon case here that we're looking at? Because Oregon is arguing the same thing.
So it wasn't just any judge. It was former Justice Breyer's brother who issued that decision. But that decision doesn't actually control outside of Judge Breyer's court. And it won't have any impact on the Oregon judge that hears the case. It'll be an Oregon federal judge. But the Oregon federal judge may look to the logic of that. But if the Trump administration is successful in the California case, that would be binding on the Oregon judge. And to the degree that the deployment this time isn't that different from the deployment last time, that case will either be kicked or the state will have to appeal to the Supreme Court. And I think the Supreme Court is going to look at everything going on and say, it's fine, go ahead and do it.
All right. Well, very interesting to look more deeply into this as it looks to be one of many cases potentially going forward. Andrew Arthur, thank you so much for your insight today.
Thank you so much. Great seeing you, Stephanie.
And you. Next, President Trump made a new tariff announcement today. He wrote on Truth Social that the United States will impose a 100% levy on all movies made outside the country. The president says the movie-making business has been stolen from the U.S. by other countries. Trump described that as stealing candy from a baby. The president singled out California, criticizing its governor, saying the state has been especially hard hit. The president first floated the idea of a movie tariff in May, but offered very few details. Shares of Netflix were down over 1% in early trading. And a government shutdown is possible beginning midnight tomorrow as Democrats double down on their demands. President Trump is expected to meet with lawmakers today to work out disagreements. NTD's Melina Weiskup has the latest.
The clock is running out to avert a government shutdown. Democrats say if Republicans want the votes, they'll be forced to repeal parts of the recently passed Big Beautiful Bill. They're also demanding Republicans to extend tax subsidies for Obamacare.
In order to find a bipartisan path forward to fund the government, avoid a reckless Republican shutdown, and deal with the healthcare crisis that Republicans have created.
Republicans insist negotiations can happen after their 7-week short-term funding bill expires.
We didn't add a single partisan priority or policy rider at all. We're operating completely in good faith to give more time. The only thing that would gut health care, using his own phraseology there, is if we took Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer's demand here, because they want to cut $50 billion from rural hospitals.
The short-term extension passed the House but failed in the Senate. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer insisting that the White House hear out his demands before any Democrats get on board.
We need a real negotiation, that you don't do this by one party putting together a completely partisan bill and saying take it or leave it.
President Trump is expected to meet with congressional leaders later today. If an agreement isn't reached by Tuesday at midnight, the government will shut down, and the administration plans to lay off more federal workers. Education department leaders already announced its plans. The agency will furlough most of its employees. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams has dropped his bid for re-election. Now Andrew Cuomo and Zoran Mamdani are reacting. Here's Cuomo.
I applaud his selflessness. You know, we often wonder, is it about us or is it about a greater calling? And I think what Mayor Adams said today speaks volumes. He said, I'm going to put my personal ambition aside for the good of the city, because he's afraid of the result if Mr. Mamdani were to win the election. And we should all be afraid of the result.
Well, I think the race continues to be the same as it was, where it's a race between us and the failed politics that we've seen, whether it's Andrew Cuomo or Eric Adams. It's a politics where Donald Trump and billionaire donors are determining the actions of failed executives. We're going to show that they can't dictate the outcome of this race.
Adams spoke proudly of his tenure as mayor, but he said his now dismissed federal corruption case left voters wary. He also said constant media speculation about his future made it impossible to raise enough funds to run a serious campaign. Adams did not endorse any of the remaining candidates, but he warned of insidious forces using local government to advance what he called divisive agendas. Adams' exit could potentially boost Cuomo's campaign. He casts himself as the one candidate who can beat Democratic Socialist Zoran Mamdani. Missouri's Governor Mike Kehoe has signed a new congressional map into law. It could land Republicans a boost in the House going into next year's midterms. The new map will likely help the GOP flip one Democratic seat and give Republicans a 7-1 advantage in Missouri's delegation. Trump yesterday called the plan fantastic, saying it will help send another MAGA Republican to Congress. Democratic Congressman Emanuel Cleaver criticized the move for using Troost Avenue as a boundary line, a street that he says historically segregated black and white residents. Some residents west of the new dividing line would be shifted into a district held by a Republican representative. Opponents are gathering signatures for a statewide referendum on the new map. They are also pursuing lawsuits to block the map. Kehoe defended the new map, arguing it reflects Missouri's conservative values in Washington. And the Trump administration is seeking to reverse the decline of the use of coal plants. Previous administrations worked to phase out coal as an energy source. Secretary of the Interior Doug Burgum says coal use is still growing globally, especially in China.
We're in a competition, and that competition for the AI arms race, as we call it, is with China. China, absolutely the number one user of coal, and they are aggressively adding more power. Our nation can lead in technology, but if we don't lead in electrical production, we're going to lose the AI arms race. This is an interesting time in history because this is the first time in the history of the planet where a kilowatt of electricity can be converted directly into intelligence.
Burgum added that many coal mines also hold critical minerals, which the U.S. is currently buying from China. So the secretary suggests expanding coal would also help the U.S. be less reliant on its adversaries. The Department of the Interior will now open over 13 million acres of federal land for coal leasing. And Energy Secretary Chris Wright also talked about the issue this morning. He says the administration is set to invest $625 million to expand the coal industry. Coal-burning plants generated about 15% of electricity in the U.S. in 2024. That's a fall from 50% in 2000. Fracking and other drilling methods have hiked natural gas output. Solar and wind power growth have also cut coal use, and the coal workforce was almost cut in half in the last 10 years, from 70,000 down to 40,000. The U.S. is weighing Ukraine's request for long-range Tomahawk missiles to defend against Russian forces. What Vice President J.D. Vance had to say. In a key parliamentary election, a former Soviet country voted to keep the country on track to joining the EU and orbit out of Russia's orbit. More about the weekend election in Moldova. I'm Stephanie Cox, and this is World Watch. First up, the Russia-Ukraine war. The United States is considering Ukraine's request to obtain long-range Tomahawk missiles. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has asked the U.S. to sell Tomahawks to European nations that would then send them on to Ukraine. Vice President Vance told Fox News yesterday that President Trump would make the final determination on the deal. Tomahawk missiles have a range of over 1,500 miles. That would put Moscow in range if Ukraine acquired the missiles. On Sunday, Special Envoy Keith Kellogg was asked on Fox News about Trump's stance on long-range strikes by Ukraine. Kellogg responded, saying, based on what Trump, Vance, and Secretary of State Rubio have said, there are no such things as sanctuaries in Russia anymore. Ukrainian President Zelensky said today he would like to build a joint aerial defense shield together with Ukraine's European partners. The air defense system would protect against threats from Russia.
The drone wave against Poland on the night of September 10 was a test not only for Poland but for all NATO. Russian jets violated Estonia's airspace, and the new drone incidents in northern Europe are another test for NATO as a whole. Russia is testing how far it can go. It wants to shift attention away from the brutal war it countries against Ukraine.
Zelensky made the comments in an address to the Warsaw Security Forum delivered via video link. He also said he believed President Trump's attitude towards Ukraine and security in Europe had changed. Meanwhile, Russia launched hundreds of drones and missiles at Kyiv and other parts of Ukraine early Sunday. At least 4 people were killed and dozens were injured in the air assault. Neighboring Poland closed its airspace near 2 southeastern cities, and its Air Force scrambled jets in response until the danger had passed. The United States and Mexico have launched a new bilateral initiative. Mexico's president says it's aimed at disrupting the flow of illicit firearms across the southern border. The aim is to enhance joint action against drug trafficking and arms smuggling. As part of the plan, Mexico will expand its use of U.S. tracing tools such as e-trace and ballistic imaging technology to all 32 states. Both countries will also increase joint investigations, prosecutions, and intelligence sharing. South Korean and U.S. officials are expected to meet this week to discuss visas for Korean companies operating in the U.S. The discussions come after hundreds of South Korean workers were arrested during an immigration raid in Georgia earlier this month. South Korean companies have become major investors in the U.S., but building their factories often requires technical skill sets. Unlike countries such as Australia, Canada, and Mexico, South Koreans don't have access to special work visas. FBI Detroit and other officials are giving updates on the church shooting that happened in Grand Blanc, Michigan yesterday. Let's tune into that.
Folks here at the township, at every level, have been working closely together. If there's one thing I know about Michiganders, it's that we get through hard things together. And that's who we are. That's how the good people here at the Grand Blanc Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints live their lives. They worship together, they sing together, and they serve together. And that's why I was so proud to see powerful statements from interfaith leaders across Michigan denouncing this attack on a house of worship. They grieved for this congregation as though it was their own. They spoke with one voice for the basic principle that we all believe in, that you should be able to pray in peace in our state, no matter who you are. I know that in the hours and days ahead, we will see the best of Michigan. We will see neighbors being neighborly, checking in with a call, bringing over some food, or offering a hug. We'll see medical providers work hard to save lives and treat those in need, with scars both seen and unseen. We will see this congregation unite and rally together like never before and continue worshiping together, singing together, and serving together. Because that's who Michiganders are. We will stay in close contact and continue to work together. Now, like everyone I know, we have lots of questions. How could this happen? What created this moment? Why? And that's motivated by a genuine motivation to understand, to learn, to prevent in the future. But I want to caution everyone. While we are working hard, while the good men and women who are working hard are doing so with due diligence at this juncture, speculation is unhelpful and it can be downright dangerous. So just ask that people lower the temperature of rhetoric. Keep your loved ones close and keep this community close to your hearts. Let's keep doing the work together. Let's be kind and let's love our neighbors. Thank you, and now I'd like to introduce the head of the Michigan State Police, Colonel James Grady.
Thank you, Governor, and good afternoon. This community has been greatly impacted by yesterday's events. We are offering our deepest condolences to those affected by this tragedy. This horrific event is something that this community has never experienced. It is important at this time that we come together to support one another in this time of grief. We stand ready and willing to assist both our local and federal partners with any additional needs as this investigation continues. The Michigan State Police immediately responded alongside our public safety partners to secure the scene, provide support to our neighbors, with our emergency support team serving search warrants, the bomb squad and K-9 team sweeping numerous locations for evidence and explosives. Additionally, our forensic science laboratories and our special investigation section continue to investigate the officer-involved shooting and work alongside our federal and local partners. I'd like to take a moment for everybody to remember that last year we put together an initiative called Stop the Plot. While we are committed to keeping our community safe, we also need your help. Again, it takes everybody. 53% of mass attacks leave a trail of clues leading up to them. And 2/3 of mass attackers elicited behavior that caused concerns. So we are asking our communities to stay vigilant, and if you see something suspicious, please contact local law enforcement or 911 immediately. We will keep the family in our prayers here at MSP as they continue to cover and we work together. Thank you for your time. Next up, we will have from the thank you. We will have ATF Special Agent in Charge for Michigan, James Deere.
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Deere with ATF. I'm the Special Agent in Charge for ATF Michigan. On behalf of the men and women of ATF, I offer my deepest sympathy and condolences to this community and to the families affected by this tragedy, this horrific act of violence. There is no place in our society for this. There's absolutely no place. But it's become all too common, and as we know, we have become more and more desensitized. This community is hurting, and we are here to help them heal. As part of that healing process, ATF has brought in their national response team. This is a cadre of world-renowned investigators for arson and explosive incidents. They have been used all over the world, and they come from places as far as California, Hawaii, and they're here in Michigan now. They arrived last night, they've briefed, they're examining the scene, and that is what they're doing at this point. From ATF's perspective, I would encourage the community not to travel by the church. Those roads have been blocked off and access is controlled. While that might be a little disheveling for folks, that we need that scene security for our investigators as they dig out this scene. So with that in mind, that's our ask for the community. We are also looking at improvised explosive devices that were recovered during this investigation and looking towards that end as well. I need to introduce the acting Special Agent in Charge for the FBI of Detroit, Michigan, Reuben Coleman.
My name is Reuben Coleman. I'm acting Special Agent in Charge of FBI Detroit Field Office, which represents the entire state. At this time, we wanted to provide an update on our investigative efforts regarding yesterday's tragic shooting at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc, Michigan. First, I want to express my gratitude for all the cross-agency collaboration between our federal, state, and local partners. Their support has been outstanding and critical to this investigation. We are in lockstep with our partners as we continue to work through this. As I mentioned yesterday, the FBI is investigating this as an act of targeted violence, and we are continuing to work to determine a motive. In the past 24 hours, our investigative squads and specialty teams have been out all night, exhausting leads, some of which have been coming in from the public via tips. Our special agents, victim specialists, child advocate forensic interviewers, and local partners have interviewed over 100 victims and witnesses to date and are continuing to interview individuals as we speak. Our Evidence Response Team, or ERT, which is a specialized team of special agents, intelligence analysts, and professional staff, are trained to process crime scenes and collect evidence. They were out all night and continue processing the scene as we speak. Our field office has stood up national equities for support. We are engaging with our Behavioral Analyst Unit, or BAU, and have received support from our Quantico Labs Division to analyze evidence collected to date. We received assistance from our FBI field offices across the country to support this case and follow down leads. While our focus is on this investigation, we want to continue to keep the victims and their families in our thoughts as they navigate through this incredibly difficult time. Please continue to reach out to the FBI via 1-800-CALL-FBI or submit tips at tips.fbi.gov. Thank you. Chief.
You prepare in peace to perform in chaos. I saw it live. I saw what you trained for, what you planned for, and then reality hit yesterday morning on a bright sunny day when people went to worship. But what I also saw is every level of government law enforcement work together for the good of the people. What I witnessed was people putting their lives at risk that had 2 months on the job as an EMT, or brand new firefighters, veteran firefighters, and law enforcement, just to bring a sense of stability to a scene that was chaotic and dynamic. As the sheriff of this county, I see the great people every day. But I want this community to know that those ranks and those agencies that were mentioned before me, we worked together. We worked in concert, and we did the job. And there's more to do. I will tell you, the sheriff's office dedicated every county sheriff medic that we had available, patrol, investigators, we did interviews, emergency management, whatever the task was needed. The sheriff's office worked with everybody that you heard and many that you don't know to bring justice and also order to this scene. But I will tell you, the days are continuing. We have 31 marked cars on as we speak, making sure schools that are in session and churches that are planning Bible studies, regardless of faith base, that they will be protected. Anybody who calls in, we will be there like other law enforcement to settle the community and bring a sense of calmness to people. There is an uncertainty, but law enforcement, especially the sheriff's office, will bring that to you. I will tell you that there are noble heroes who do not wear a uniform that went to that church yesterday. You're going to hear their stories as we lay out this case with law enforcement, but I will tell you this, those heroes from that church did their job. And it was led because of a police department. So law enforcement from this township is led by a chief who demonstrated leadership right out of the gate. And my honor is to announce him as the final speaker, Chief Rennie of Grand Blanc Township.
Thank you, Sheriff. Evil. This was an evil act of violence. That's exactly what this was. And this is not Grand Blanc. This does not define Grand Blanc and who we are. We are a community, and I am confident that together we're going to build a stronger community due to this incident. Now, an update. This left 5 people dead, 8 people injured. As I said, this is an evil act and does not define Grand Blanc or who we are. At this time, what we know is everyone has been accounted for. We still are in the process of clearing out that church, but at this time, everyone is accounted for. We ask that you stay away from the scene. Let us work to clear this call so then we could get back to normal. That's what we all want. Grand Blanc Township police officers, the community of Grand Blanc Township, we're hurting. And we know that you are hurting as well with us. I want to remind you that we had the Family Assistance Center open. They will be open Monday and Tuesday at the Genesis Athletic Club from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That address is 801 Health Park Boulevard, Grand Blanc, Michigan 48439. Seek service, let's come back together and be stronger together and better. I'll open it up at this time for any questions. Sir.
I have a question. When it comes to the act of violence, can you define why it is considered an act of violence and not something more serious like terrorism?
I will let Agent Coleman speak to that particular question.
Yes, as of right now, we are calling it an act of violence as this is an investigation that is continuing. We are continuing to receive leads. We're continuing to run down all information. And once we're able to ascertain definitively what we have, that's when we'll make those statements. But as of right now, this is an act of violence. Thank you.
Can I follow up on that, please? You called this an act of targeted violence. Can you tell us who you believe the target was? A specific person, the LDS Church, another group?
Well, as of right now, again, as this is an ongoing investigation, what I would say is when I say targeted violence, I mean targeted within our state and within our community. Right now, what we are here for are the families and the victims, and we're going to work diligently in order to make sure we can bring closure for them as well.
Speaking of the motive, there was some chatter that the suspect's ex-girlfriend was a Mormon or something of that nature, chatter online about that. Is that something that you can speak to or any possible motive?
That is something I cannot speak to at this point in time.
We heard that someone was arrested after driving through the barricade near the church. Can you share any information on that, why they were arrested, maybe what their intentions were?
Yes, Chief.
Yes, I could speak on that. Yes, there was an incident out there. We are still in the process of investigating that incident, whether or not it's related or not. I could tell you that we do have a 21-year-old person in custody for that incident right now.
Does the suspect have any prior criminal history or known contact with law enforcement?
Are you talking about the suspect from yesterday or today?
The suspect from yesterday.
The suspect from yesterday has been arrested by law enforcement in the past.
And the 5 dead, does that include the suspect or is that another?
The 5 dead includes the suspect.
Can you give any details on what those prior arrests were?
Burglary and OWI. That I can't give you 100%.
What do we know?
Terry.
No, so I just wanted to clarify. No more victims. You searched the church and.
We have not completed search in the church, but as we know, everyone has been accounted for. That's going to be all the questions that we answered today. If you this is our last press conference. If there's other pertinent information that develops, we will let you guys all know and post that on our social media account, Grand Blanc Township Police Department Facebook page. Thank you.
And we saw there a range of officials giving updates on the recent shooting at a church in Michigan that left at least 4 people dead, as well as the shooter and others injured. Officials vowing there to help the community feel more certainty as it reels in the wake of the shooting. They also praised the work of all those who worked to protect lives and who continue to work together to investigate the crime. Next, President Trump is hosting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House. They're discussing Trump's 21-point peace plan to end the war in Gaza. According to Arab officials familiar with the matter, the president's peace proposal calls for an immediate ceasefire, the release of all hostages within 48 hours, a gradual withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza, and the dismantling of the terrorist Hamas group. Trump said he was very confident of achieving peace in Gaza as he welcomed Netanyahu. This is Netanyahu's 4th visit to the White House since Trump's 2nd term. He's seeking to shore up U.S. support. The two leaders are holding a closed-door meeting with aides. They're expected to appear together for a press conference by 1 p.m. Eastern Time, so that should be pretty soon. Next, the White House is closely monitoring the deadly shooting in Michigan. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said on Fox News this morning that she spoke with FBI Director Kash Patel.
Based on my conversations with the FBI director, all they know right now is this was an individual who hated people of the Mormon faith. And they are trying to understand more about this, how premeditated it was, how much planning went into it, whether he left a note. All of those questions have yet to be answered, but certainly will be answered by the FBI.
Said the FBI director told her that the suspect is a Marine Corps veteran and served in Iraq. He's a member of the local Michigan community and his family is cooperating with the FBI. She said the agency is executing search warrants at the residences of the suspect and trying to get to the bottom of why he committed such an atrocity. The press secretary noted that the Trump administration is committed to fully investigating, prosecuting, and preventing such crimes. On the topic of the Israel-Hamas war, Leavitt said a deal is very close.
The president has been working tirelessly on this effort to bring this war in Gaza and to bring this conflict in the Middle East to an end. He wants to see all of the hostages released. And Ambassador Witkoff, Special Envoy Witkoff, sent a very detailed 21-point plan to both sides, and the president expects both sides to agree.
Leavitt said President Trump would discuss the 21-point peace plan with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House later today. Trump will also speak to leaders in Qatar who have served as intermediaries with the Hamas terror group. She noted the White House had direct and indirect conversations with Hamas as well. The press secretary noted that to reach a good deal, both sides have to give up a little bit, but Trump has said that the conflict must end. If you have any feedback on the show or have something you'd like to see us cover, send us an email at news.today@ntd.com. We'd love to hear from you. We'll cover more news right after this break.